The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to some of you. I know we've got a very varied audience list today on the webinar. As you can see, this is part 2, ADN webinar, Autodesk on Citrix, hosted by myself, Adam Joel, the CEO of IMS CAD. Wherever you are in the world, there's quite a few I can see that have been on before with us. We've got a slightly different arrangement today, where we're going to hopefully show you some live Citrix working with Revit. And what I want to do, obviously, is just kick off with the agenda of today. We've got really some housekeeping here first to some of you who would like to ask questions as we go along. I don't think we're going to attend to any during the presentation, but certainly towards the end I will start asking some of these. If you see in your control panel there's a questions section, you just type in your question there, send it off, and that will get to us, and we will deal with those down the line, because I'm sure things will stir up some questions as we go. We're going to kick off with a brief overview of Citrix. I did this in the last webinar. I'm not going to spend too long on it, as many of you I'm sure are aware of what Citrix are and what they do. But for those of you who aren't aware, I'm going to run through a bit of that. We've also again got IMS CAD overview, which will tell you a bit about us as a business, where we've come from, what we are, who we are, and where we fit in with Autodesk. We're also going to run through a bit of the strategy of where Autodesk are right now with virtualization. Our services overview, which is really a quick sort of insight into what we offer and what we can offer. Then we'll move into our live demonstration section with Revit, running on Citrix 2013. And then I'll get into some customer examples and stories, especially in particular deployments we're involved in, which you may find of interest. Then I'll summarise it all again on one page, and then we'll get into the questions. So hopefully it won't take up too much of your time, maybe 40-45 minutes we're aiming for. So without further ado, we'll kick on. So we're just giving you some information here around Citrix and who they are. Gives you a bit of information on their revenues, 7,000 plus employees. We've also got 10,000 Citrix partners out there, which we're one of them. And I'll tell you why we're a bit different in a minute. There are 100% of the Fortune 500 companies use Citrix at some level, and from being very much an enterprise solution, it's now moved into the more SME space and is much more affordable with the hardware improving. They've got over 250,000 customers, which of course is fairly impressive. Number one in desktop and application virtualization, whereas someone like VMware are the number one in server virtualization. 75% of the internet users are using Citrix at some level. They have a lot of technology with it out there within data centers and infrastructures that are Citrix technology, and obviously they're very much into the cloud delivery of applications now. So that's pretty much who they are as a business. Now, I think I'll skip the slide there. Yeah, okay. So just to give you an idea of what they are and how it works. DirecTV, some of you may know of. It's the US version of Sky TV for those of you in Europe. It's a satellite broadcasting company, a TV company, and of course they have a central server bank that transmits the pictures and everything, all the content straight to your device in your front room and then into your TV. So it doesn't matter really what TV you've got, what make it is, what size it is. We don't care. It's the same with Citrix. It just transmits in Citrix's case, the keystrokes and pixel changes of any image, and of course it's an on-demand service anywhere. So obviously it means it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can get access to your, in this case, all of their software. And the way you do that is a very clever little client that sits on any device you want to put it on. In particular, we have a lot of clients with iPads and iPhones, as I'm sure you do. they can just download a Citrix client off the iStore and install it. It's very simple to do. It's free, and just with that in itself, you then have access to connect to Citrix infrastructure and receive the data. The reason that Citrix really are the market leaders with graphics, which is obviously where we're coming from with CAD software, is the multimedia, is this thing called HDX technology they've developed and worked quite hard on it the last few years to improve it dramatically and really focusing on 3D applications. And of course with that it comes the other sort of peripheral products like WAN optimization and obviously collaboration, which is pretty important with things like Revit products, where we've got a number of users wanting to access data files and drawings. So we've got, this solution really sits very well with the CAD world, unlike other virtualization companies that don't have this type of level of graphical power within their technology. And this is why they've got a broad interest in HDX. Generally, these industries now all have the basic requirement now for virtualization, and of course it's always been those annoying group of users, the CAD users, that never got the look in when the IT department decided to virtualize servers and applications maybe. But now that's not the case. It's absolutely available. It's a very viable solution now as opposed to a workstation deployment. We're not saying it's going to replace that, but I think there's a very good case to look at some level of hybrid or some sort of version of Citrix in every CAD department, because everybody likes to be mobile when they're working. More and more the world is changing, and flexible working is absolutely very important now, and CAD users sitting at desks for hours on end is something that actually we can now change. And obviously it's it really has sort of changed the game as to how you deploy applications and general, in particular CAD software. So obviously the key benefits really of Citrix come here with desktop administration going down, and of course your employee productivity and your data center, what says a data center flexibility, that really means your mobility and your flexibility of where you work goes up. And it doesn't have to be in a data center as such, it can be in your office comms room, whatever you may have. But it's just centralizing everything into a server environment rather than on the workstation. So this is just a little slide that Citrix put out last year, just about they did a big survey on usage, and especially in the corporate world, of how people will want to work down the line, and in 2012 in particular. As you can see there, without sort of reading through them, it's all about mobility, it's all about bringing your own devices. People want to bring iPads in and connect to the corporate network, which a few years ago was an absolute no-no. But now with this technology, you can do that very safely. You don't have to invest in lots of hardware for your staff. It just adds so much more flexibility to the business, and the business benefits are far-flung really on this, and sometimes it's hard to make it a tangible return on investment. But there's so many sort of extra benefits you get from happy staff because they can work from home, through to using any device anywhere, anytime. Just quickly to wrap up on the Citrix, these are the key benefits really it gives you. I know many of you would know this, that use Citrix or know a Citrix, but there's a lot of key points here. I won't go through all of them, but certainly the IP protection, centralizing into a server environment. You're in control of that data. There's no dispersed computing model now where people can download onto memory sticks information that shouldn't really do that. And obviously data compliance sits with that very well, and more that's becoming relevant with sensitive projects that you probably work on. And I think down the bottom there, apart from the business continuity aspect and the scalability, is the sweating the hardware asset longer. So in effect, what you don't need to do anymore is where you maybe do a hardware refresh every 2 to 3 years, especially with programs like Revit, which are very resource hungry, and at the end of the day, workstations run out of power in the end, and processing power. And what you can do is just stick with that same PC rather than buy an upgrade and just have a Citrix infrastructure deliver that application to that, that old 5-year-old workstation. It really doesn't make any difference what the endpoint is, and that's the really power of Citrix there for you in one. So obviously there's a really good return on investment opportunity if you are looking to refresh workstations. So just to change it now into who we are, we've been around 8 years. We're a specialist Citrix partner, as it says there, working with Autodesk Channel and major accounts with Autodesk. The reason we've kind of got this position with Autodesk, which is obviously good for us, but in short, it really is developed from being a VAR ourselves. So we were a reseller in the UK selling the software, understanding customers' problems and trying to find solutions for how they work more efficiently. And obviously, as Autodesk went down the virtualization route and put their sort of flag on Citrix as the partner they wanted to use and develop, we got involved because we've always been a Citrix partner and VMware partner, and we run data centers. So we've always been a kind of non-CAD company, even though we were a reseller selling the software. So we got involved quite closely with the product teams in the US. They wanted us to do a load of pilot projects for AutoCAD and Revit for the 2012 releases that they put out there, which we did with some end-user clients, maybe 15, 20 clients that we had sort of 10 licenses up to 150 licenses out there running on Citrix as a pilot. And obviously that gave a lot of deep understanding of how these applications run and how you scale it up and all those questions that you've probably got yourselves when you think about this type of solution. And just sort of adding on to that, a year later, we then just been contracted to test the suites on Citrix, because obviously Autodesk have the suites, design suites, which unfortunately aren't Citrix ready right now. But I can tell you they are committed to doing that, and it's not there yet, but they're certainly on that road. So that's quite important for us, and it sort of gives you a feeling of our connection with Autodesk and what we've done because of our infrastructure over in the UK and in America now. We've able to be a kind of a bit of an outsourced partner of theirs to test a lot of their products in a Citrix environment at every level, really, both with end users and internally in our own data centers. So we support global Autodesk partners, end users with solutions incorporating just general advice. We're here for that. I mean, we're a commercial company, but obviously we accept that people have a lot of questions and would like to find out things about this type of thing, and we're open to that, of course. But we do obviously provide consulting services, deployment, and ongoing support of Citrix solutions. But a lot of people have Citrix infrastructures already. They've got, so we accept that. We just work closely with the incumbent IT teams, and just because it is a specialist job putting CAD on Citrix, it's just not like putting Microsoft Office on Citrix, which I'm sure some of you have experienced, which works very well. This is much more specialist, and I can assure you that doing it this way is not an easy deployment, especially with a number of users. So just to give you a feel of where Autodesk are with the virtualization, those are the 2012, 2013 releases that are on Citrix. They're all the standalone products right now. They are in the suites, but they're not. You can't Citrix a suite, if you know what I mean. So it's quite confusing at the moment. I think they know that. So I think they're going to address that by just going down and going with a virtualization strategy that will suit everybody, but using Citrix as the recommended platform. Just a bit of ground rules from Autodesk. Obviously, they're quite stringent on their licensing, and it's important to understand some of the rules. It's obviously got to be 2012 version or newer. Subscription is required. LT is not permitted, and free cross-grade from NLM to any Citrix version. So an NLM is obviously a network version, and obviously, we've got some people get confused with SLM and NLM, but obviously an SLM is for a workstation, where an NLM can sit on a server and be accessed by multi-users. So obviously that's where the Citrix sits. So you just can cross-grade for free for that. Other virtual platforms are permitted, but not recommended. Now, the reason I've put that in there is because obviously a lot of you have experience with VMware and Microsoft virtualization. Now, we're completely aware of all that, and completely aware there's a lot of VMware customers out there. But it just doesn't deliver the graphical element very well. And this is where the problem comes in a virtual environment. you really have to consider Citrix as your preferred platform for CAD users. Now that can sit alongside a VMware infrastructure, and even people, I've seen customers wanting to do Zen Desktop with VMware or Zen App with VMware, and of course, that's all well and good, and it will work with some things, but just with the graphical requirement, it's tough. VMware have some real stopping or blocking points within the, especially when you try and set up virtualization through the hypervisor. It just becomes very, very tricky, and basically it's to do with the drivers. It just doesn't work, and we've tested it extensively. I know customers that have tried it and not got a great solution there. And it's just about getting the right, because people want workstation performance. However much you say it, they look at this for like. And there is, I think, a very good case for a combination of both workstation and the Citrix environment with most customers. If you want the mobility and the flexibility, you can have that, but there's still maybe the 8-hour-a-day guys that do 3D rendering full on all the time that still will need the workstation. So I think that's a fair comment to make at this stage. Now that may change in a couple of years when the technology improves a little bit, but it is absolutely a key point. But that shouldn't put you off, because I can tell you now that AutoCAD, all the AutoCAD products and the Revit products run great in this environment. And as mentioned, there's more to come, meaning they're looking at the suites as well. And obviously, for new for 2013, what I haven't got down there is you've got Inventor and AutoCAD Electrical for you manufacturing people. And obviously, you also got Civil 3D, which has come in the back door, as it were, from Autodesk. So that's now available on Citrix as well from 2013 version onwards, which is a big one because we get asked for Civil a lot. Okay, so this is just to give you a bit of an overview of our services and what we do. And as part of that, we obviously are aware and absolutely open to customers that want to try things out, test it. We're not expecting people to just say, yeah, let's do Citrix right now. Because I know between some of you in the audience now, you've got some of your resellers, some of your end users. It's a good combination. But we work with obviously the resale channel globally. So if you're a reseller, obviously we can work with you in partnership and deliver these solutions into your client base. We're consulting with customers globally, which means we do work with Autodesk Consulting and major accounts with Citrix deployments. We have 2 servers, one in the US, one in the UK, for demo purposes. And this is quite important. We're going to get to that in a minute, and that's one of the ones we're going to do the demo on. But this is something we can offer out to either yourself or your clients if you wanted to actually have 24-hour access to looking at Revit or running AutoCAD on Citrix. Or it's going to be a hosted type environment. It's open internet, so you've got to accept there's a little bit of latency there. But it's been quite a powerful tool for us to show people. Seeing is believing, after all, for this type of solution. Specialists in scoping solutions. I think that's quite important, especially on the hardware side. We are, constantly coming up against customers that have either got the wrong hardware, they've bought the wrong server spec, thinking it will work. It's just, as I say, it's a specialist job. You need to do it properly right from the start to get the right performance. So we can provide full deployment services, we can provide ongoing support, and obviously we're here for educational general advice to the wider market and questions. Absolutely no problem. We've got a deep understanding of these applications in this environment, which is fairly unique at the moment out there. And we're there to be helpful to you. And of course, we've already deployed solutions to many customers, which is quite important. So just to give you a feel of a general sizing guide for AutoCAD or Revit deployment. Obviously we would always look for redundancy in a solution. It's not for everyone, obviously, but it's obviously recommended. As a minimum, you'd have 2 servers anyway. So just if one went down, it would fail over to the next one. Processor-wise, normally around 1 core per person within a server. But that can obviously go down the more users you have on. 75% in brackets there basically equates to that's probably where it is ultimately. So in effect, 15 cores for 20 users, if you take it that way. The RAM, half a gig to 1 gig per user of graphical RAM, of normal RAM, I should say, and then the graphical RAM similar, using NVIDIA cards within the server, Quadro cards. And again, this is where our skills come in with the hardware sort of speccing out against users. We have a number of ways of doing that with, we've got a special sort of application software that will actually analyze your usage within your current environment and give us some interesting or some key data on how we then can scope out the solution we provide to you. And this is the same for anyone, whether you're an end user or reseller. We do the same, and obviously it's always based on a Windows 2008 R2 operating system, and of course we tend to use Citrix ZenApp 6.5 now but also ZenApp 6, which has got the HDX in it. And normally Enterprise or Platinum, it's quite key to do that if you've got a multi-site environment or multi-users. You have the better quality of ZenApp. There's 4 different levels, so they're the 2 top ones. Okay, just to give you a quick idea of what we've got in our demo environment, which obviously my companion Tony will show you in a minute. We've got one in our London data centre, that's where we're based, and we've also got one in Washington DC. They're HP DL380s. We always recommend HP kit with this type of solution. It just scales better, and it also does graphical delivery much better. NVIDIA cards, as I said, in this particular server, we'll show you in a minute, it's got a 2 gig GPU video card, which some of you may think is not a lot for compared to a Revit workstation, but this is where the power of Citrix comes in. Again, we're on ZenApp 6.5. We can show any Citrix Ready product to a client or yourself if you want to come and have a look and have 24-hour access. And of course, we'll load up. You can load up. We've got a thing called SharePoint where you can actually load up your own file data, so you can actually play with your own projects or sample projects online as well. We've just had a load of customers doing sort of 150 meg files on there with Revit and having a good experience. So that's across the open internet. So it just shows you the power of it. And obviously, as I've alluded to there, when you put it into a corporate environment or on a LAN, you can certainly expect a 30 to 60% performance improvements. But we expect, this is obviously this type of demo server environment is not for heavy usage. It's not to show you that it's comparable to the biggest, workstation you can buy. It's really about, really just testing and showing that it works and it works well. And as I say, seeing that actually, hang on, Citrix really does work with CAD. And I think a lot of people haven't seen it, so it's important that we offer that out to the market. So that's something we can come back to in a bit. So as it says now, it's live demo time. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Tony, who's going to take over from this and just show you how he loads up, and this is on our demo server, loads up the applications and just talk it through and how it works. So I'm just bear with us for literally 20 seconds, and we're just going to change presenter.
Hello everyone, this is Tony. I'm the lead Citrix engineer at IMS CAD. I'm just going to talk you through kind of what the setup is and how you have to look into Citrix and what you have to consider. So this is basically a Citrix, the front end, the web interface of Citrix. There are 2 main ways of deploying Citrix. You have the web interface that you are currently looking at. You can also use a Citrix Receiver Enterprise client, what gives you access to basically click on an icon on your desktop, just like you would normally on your workstation, and be able to load the app. So it looks no different from if you was working on your workstation. So today I'm just going to log in to our Citrix interface. Our password. As Adam has already alluded to, you will be able to have access to this if you wish. As you can see, our applications appear, and we just want to test Revit 2013 today, so I'm just going to open that up. The current setup of this server is a Windows 2003 virtual server. This one only actually has 2 vCPUs. What's in a normal environment is the equivalent of 2 cores on a workstation. And it's only got 4 gig of RAM, and as you will see, it's currently just loading there. As you can see, you're getting should see full Revit coming up, just like if it was on your workstation. You guys, you will have a little bit of delay, obviously, because we are on a webinar here, so you will see like slightly jumpy screen. But as you see, it should be arriving. Normally, if you were sitting looking at my screen, you'd see it loads up nice and fast. As you can see, we now have a full Revit loaded. Just waiting for a few screens to update so everyone can see what I'm looking at. Here we go. Lovely. I'm just going to click on one of the sample models. And that loads up with no problem at all. I can see you guys have got a slight delay, obviously, with it being a webinar, but I'll just orbit round this model just to show it's fully working. There's no delay or anything like that. You should see it slowly moving on your screen, being that it's a webinar. You have no problem from our end. It looks just like a workstation. I'm just going to do some zooming in, zooming out. No issues at all. Going to do some panning. Can pan around. No problems. Full 3D model. I can click on any of the tabs. I'm getting full features of the application. Perfect user experience. I know you guys probably can't get the actual feel of this. This is why we're going to allow you to have a look at our demo site, because obviously you will get a slight delay being that you are on a webinar. And as I can see, you're getting full access to full 2013 version of Revit, no problems at all. Workstation. This actual current setup, what I'm looking, I'm actually running off of a iGel thin client. There's no power, no graphics card locally at all. Everything's done from the server in our data center in the UK. Okay, I hope you guys are happy with that, and I'm going to pass back to Adam. Back over to you, Adam.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, I think what Tony showed there is that although it's a little bit jumpy because it's a webinar, so you've got to accept that. That it works. It works well, and I can tell you that his experience was as good as you'd see on a workstation. So we encourage you all to get in touch and come and have a play for 24 hours. We've had a number of clients when we were doing the suite testing, testing all the different products that Autodesk do within those design suites, and had the same experience. It obviously you can load your own data up, so it's a true reflection of how you'd experience it. As I say, we're not suggesting that this is going to be a complete, forklift truck install over a workstation environment. There is still some limitations when you're doing lots of 3D rendering, but as a solution for 2D and a little bit of 3D users, it really does. It really is there now, and we've deployed it a few times now, and it works well and it scales well. Okay, so just to cut through to a couple of examples of now I'm going to just tell you about that we've deployed. I mean, this one is a large international architects based in the UK, but have offices around the world. And they went for 4 HP servers across 4 sites, 90 users remotely, but in total 110. They've got an office in the Middle East where we use something called a branch repeater, which is a Citrix WAN optimization product, which is something you can enhance the solution with, and especially if you're going over long distances. Obviously based on Windows Server 2008. We also delivered, obviously the key thing here is that not everyone just needs CAD. I think many users, as you can imagine, have Windows users that need Microsoft Office products. They need Adobe. They need all these other things along with the CAD solution. So obviously in this case, in this particular architect's case, we did do all their Office applications as well. So they had a full access to all their suite that they needed. And of course now they've got their users running around as architects do on iPads, enjoying that experience. So you can't do much designing on an iPad, if I'm honest, but the fact is you can show and change the things, small things on the fly. This one is an interesting one. We're actually in the process of deploying this right now. There's 262 users on ZenApp 6.5 Platinum who want to use Revit 2013 in US, Ireland, and Singapore. And in this case, we're going to need 18 servers and best part of 36 graphics cards. So, you can imagine, but you think that's 262 Revit users we're talking about here. And this is being deployed right now. And obviously we're going to utilize the customer's offices in the US and Singapore to put servers in, so actually you're going to get fairly good experience there, I think, pretty much on a LAN environment. But in Ireland, they've got 40 to 50 users. We're going to have to actually put it in a data center and host it. So, that's an interesting environment where, when you're looking at pure cost, you're talking about 40% saving over a traditional workstation deployment at that level. Now, I know not everyone has got 262 Revit users, but, it just shows you where the benefits of this can be. And, of course, the management of that, imagine doing Windows updates on 262 machines. It's going to just take, an army of IT people. So, that all goes away. It's all centrally managed, and the server updates are instantaneous. The return on investment is compelling, and really, down the line, of course, year 2, year 3, the return on investment even gets even better. Hardware refreshes are not required. You've got that infrastructure in place, or this company will have that infrastructure in place, and they can use it on other projects. You don't have to buy any new kit, and it really does work out as a good investment. So I'm just going to summarise now. Work with a specialist. Obviously, we would say that, but we are, and I can't say any more plainly than that. We are, leading the way in this environment, and we're not here just to make money. We want to help educate, and help people get this right, because there's nothing worse than making that investment and doing it the wrong way and realising it doesn't really run very good. It's very frustrating, and but of course, the Citrix environment, does give you all these benefits you see down here that we've alluded to through this webinar. And I think the key point is that, a lot of people say have VMware infrastructures and want to run on Microsoft. They just don't work very well, and, we cannot highlight that more clearly than this. But, Autodesk are not licensing VMware and Microsoft. They are allowing it. They're not stopping you doing it, but the recommended platform is Citrix, and I think that may please some people and may annoy some people, but if you want it to run well, you need to do this. And it's all about the consideration really is when do you do it? When's the right time? Obviously, a hardware refresh is a great time to look at this. When you've got a new site, new project set up, like that company I was alluding to before, the engineering company, and you need the flexible working element, and I think that's key. But overall, it's a great solution, and we cannot stress enough how well it works. But come and try out our server, whether you're in the US, in EMEA, or even further than that, come and we'll set something up for you and see if we can get you to have a good experience. Okay, I'm now finishing up, and obviously we're recording this webinar, so we'll post it up on our website and you'll be able to access it that way. If you have missed it, obviously colleagues of yours may have done. We'll also be able to send you the slide deck, and there's my contact details if you need to ping me an email about anything. And also now what I want to do is look at some questions. There has been a few, and obviously if you've got any right now, we're going to be on air for another sort of 5-10 minutes, so just type in a question if you've got any, and I'll try and get through each one individually. We're just going to, I've got, at the moment, I've got one at the moment. So, okay, this first one. At my company, we have a separate desktop application that must be running prior to launching AutoCAD for a third-party AutoCAD add-on. When I launch the application through the internet browser using Citrix, they're running on the same workstation, such that the two separate desktop applications may communicate one another behind the scenes. Well, the short answer to that is yes. Again, this is all about how your infrastructure is set up and how, if you start adding things on, a bit like Lego, it's not going to work very well. It has to be done right through the hardware, through to the software, and the optimization element that we can bring to this. I think that one's a classic. Take it offline. If you want to, I think his name's Jonathan. If you want to send me an email, Jonathan, we can sort of take that one offline and see if we can help you out there. How do you handle licensing for Autodesk products? We experience that Autodesk does not want license their products for usage in a Citrix environment. Well, that's changed now, guys. I mean, that's a good question, because obviously a couple of years ago it just wasn't an option, but that's not the case now. They're much more open to suggestions and licensing. Obviously, they've licensed all 13 to 15 products already. We're involved in the suites, design suite testing at the moment, and also, they're going to move into more of the desktop delivery as well as the application delivery. So, I think, I think the key thing is, times have changed. Again, drop me an email. I can take that again offline, and we can answer that a bit more in detail for you, Alexander. Thank you for that question. Got another question here from Frank. With regards to GPU, what about the NVIDIA VGX hypervisor? I think Tony would like to take that one. Tony? I'll just quickly overview on that. We are talking to NVIDIA at the moment about that. It's very new. As far as I know, Zen Server or VMware, neither have actually added that onto their solution at the moment. It will be a game changer when eventually it's all come out and all actually released. But currently the chips, as far as I understand, are actually not live, and you can actually not buy boards with them on. So yeah, at the time when they come out and we're looking at 16 gig cards, yes, that will be a game changer. But for now, you're probably looking at a Quadro 4000 or a Quadro 6000 in this environment. Back over to you, Adam. Yeah, thanks, Tony. Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, that NVIDIA question, because it looks an interesting technology, and they're working closely with Citrix, obviously. So, this is where the power comes in that relationship. And we've got another one here. Someone called Aaron. Do you really use only 1 gigabit of RAM for Revit software per user, or did you up the RAM allocation for the Revit user? Okay, good question. Well, the simple answer is yes. We do use 1 gig of RAM for a Revit user. You've got to imagine this is where it gets a little bit mindy for someone who's used to workstations. Is you're moving into a shared environment on a server with, say, I don't know, 10 Revit licenses for 15 users who are accessing those at all times. So not everyone's pressing the button at the same time. It really does come down to that level, and the usage of it just really does reduce as far as what you need as far as resource within the server. Of course, on the workstation you need that resource, but this is where the return on investment on the hardware really comes in. But yes, I mean, absolutely, if you're doing 8 hours a day 3D rendering, you probably need a bit more than that, if I'm fairness. But for your average user, it works at that level. So again, if you want to drop me an email, we can get into a bit more detail. Okay, moving on. How do you enforce license? Username, password, user SSL certificates. From Frederick. Tony, do you want to take that one?
Hi, Frederick. Yes. Basically, we can enforce being Citrix. Basically, it still works on the same FlexLM licensing management software as all of Autodesk licensing. So basically, you have one session, one license, and it'll work exactly the same as a workstation will, with the FlexLM actually managing it with the Citrix ready licenses. So yeah, you won't have any problems. If you're talking about security with SSLs, yes, you can install up to, I think it's 256-bit encryption on Citrix now. So if you're looking for a WAN environment, you're looking for some remote access, then yeah, you're quite happy to have a very secure environment using SSL VPNs. I'll pass that back to Adam.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Frederick, for that question. I think you've got another one, actually. Can we load our own .NET assemblies into AutoCAD? Tony? Sorry, can we load our own .NET assemblies into AutoCAD?
Not on our demo environment, but if you were to have your own environment, yes, you can basically put your own .NET assemblies into AutoCAD. You can basically configure the software with any third-party application that you want. As long as it works on the software on a workstation, it will work in a Citrix environment. The only kind of caveat to that is that it needs to work on a Windows 2008 R2 machine. But as that's basically the same as a Windows 7 workstation, I don't think you'll have any issues.
Okay, good. Thanks, Tony. I've got another one here from someone called Chris. Is there a limit to file sizes I can use on your demo server? This always comes up. I mean, people want to load up 2 gig files and try and break it. We don't, there isn't a limit, if I'm honest, but we want you to have a good experience. The reality is it's an open internet solution across a WAN environment with latency. So you have to accept that it's got its limitations, but it'll certainly give you a good feel for if it works well like that, then it's going to work pretty well if you put it in your LAN environment in your own corporate infrastructure. So that's it. So thanks for that, Chris. Okay, I think we've got one more here. Obviously, keep firing them over, guys, if you want any questions you have. Another one from Harvey. Can you help us with customers who want third-party apps and add-ons onto Citrix? Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, of course. I mean, this is the point I alluded to earlier briefly. It's not just all of their software that people need. There's always third-party add-ons and other products, plugins and everything else that goes along. I'm sure many of you ADN members that are out there provide these with Autodesk software. So, I think the answer is there's no limitation there. We can work. We haven't been beaten yet with any application. It's really obviously down to the vendor themselves who provide that software, if their licensing allows it in that environment. But normally there's not a problem. We've got a very fairly robust test environment here. We spend time testing different third-party add-ons. So if you have any yourselves that you're maybe considering going into a virtual environment, we can help you with that potentially. Help you test it out like we've done with Autodesk themselves. So that's something else to sort of consider. Okay, any more questions, guys? Can't see any right now. Okay, another one's come in. Does Citrix have any geo restrictions? I presume he means you mean licensing restrictions across geos from Autodesk perspective. which again is a good question. Obviously, Autodesk, if you have a GNOL license, or a global network license, there's not a problem. You can run Citrix, but obviously if you don't have that, if you just have a EULA, a European one, or some other company-wide licensing that isn't a GNOL, so if you're not basically a major account, you will have to consider that you can't run it across geo. But you know, that again is being looked at by Autodesk right now. So I think over the next 6 months to a year, you'll see some positive changes in that respect. Thanks for that question. So we've just about hit 45 minutes. So that was a very good guess by me at the start. So if there's no other questions, guys, as I say, my contact details are there. Feel free to fire it up. And yeah, we're obviously here for you. Anytime you want to have a discussion or ask some questions, feel free. I want to thank you all for coming on today. This work's been recorded, so we'll be able to post this up on the line, on our website. Yeah, thanks for your time, guys. Appreciate it. And look out for ADN Members Webinar Part 3. Thanks very much. Goodbye.